Live from Lagos, this is Lunchtime Politics. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. Our job is to track what's going on in the polity, and these are our top stories. Incumbent governor and APC candidate Lucky Aiyedatiwa wins Ondo State governorship election by landslide, beating his closest rival with over 200,000 votes. People's Democratic Party rejects outcome of Ondo State governorship election, describing the victory as a sham, alleging it was skewed by the electoral umpire in favor of the APC. And President Bola Tinubu arrives Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to attend the 19th Heads of State and Government Summit of the Group of 20, known as the G20, the Southern American country. Thanks again for staying with us. Our tracking of the polity begins from outside our shores as President Bola Tinubu has arrived Rio in Brazil to attend the 19th Head of State and Government Summit of the Group of 20, G20 countries. The president was received by Ambassador Breno Costa of the Ministry of External Relations of Brazil. President Tinubu was accompanied by some members of his cabinet, including ministers of Foreign Affairs, Livestock Development, that of Art, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy, and others are the Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security and the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency. President Tinubu is also expected to hold bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit in advancement of Nigeria's socioeconomic reforms. And back home, when it was, it was Lucky Aiyedatiwa that emerged victor by a historic landslide from Saturday's governorship election in Ondo State after months of intense campaigns and political intrigue. The returning officer for the election, Professor Layemi Akinwumi, and Vice Chancellor of the Federal University, Lokoja in Kogi State, declared Aiyedatiwa of the All Progressives Congress the winner of the election on Sunday, extending the governor's stay at the government house in Akure. Aiyedatiwa, the incumbent governor of the Sunshine State, polled 366,781 votes to defeat his closest rival and the former deputy governor of the state, Aiyedatiwa, who flew the People's Democratic Party's flag, scoring 117,845 votes, over 200,000 votes less of the victor.
Aiyedatiwa Lucky Orimisan of APC 366781 for the Labour Party, Olorunfemi Ayodele Festus 1162 1162. Ajayi Alfred Agbola of PDP 117845. That Aiyedatiwa Lucky Orimisan of APC, having satisfied the requirement of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected. Signed by Professor Layemi Akinwumi, the returning officer for this election. Thank you and God bless Nigeria.
Well, in his response, Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa commended the people for their support during the exercise. You can see him in company of his brother governors celebrating the moment when that election result was announced. We have Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Abdurrahman Abdurrazak, Hope Uzodinma, Basi Otsu, Abdullahi Ganduje, as well as other governors that are present to celebrate with him.
I campaigned across the entire 18 local government. The only candidate that went through or campaigned or traversed the entire 18 local government, not just the capital city of the local government. All communities, almost all the communities, we visited them. We see the roads, the way they look like, the environment they are living in. We heard their voices, we read their messages, and we listened and responded to questions and their yearnings and aspirations. So they have that belief that their hope is in me, that areas before that they never had hope before now, their hope has been renewed by the kind of campaign and promises, not just promises alone, giving example, making reference to what we have been able to do in the last 10 months. So they are willing and they believe in us. They believe that whatever we say is what we do. We will not tell them what we cannot do. We will do all that we have promised them within the limited resources available to us. And that is exactly what they have translated into vote. The love they showed to us during campaign, they came out in the day, at night, in large number, huge crowds. Some areas we got there at 10 p.m. in the night. They were waiting in the rain. They were waiting in the rain to receive us. So excited about our coming. And their heart leaped for joy at our appearance. And they have translated that love.
Well, the People's Democratic Party has rejected the result of the election in Ondo State. The opposition party described Saturday's election and in their words now as the worst election conducted by INEC in the history of the country. A statement by the party's publicity secretary, that's the National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologuagba, says the election ran short of all expectations and requirement of a free, fair and credible election as it witnessed the height of electoral swindling, deceit and manipulation of the APC. It further explains that the National Working Committee of the PDP will be conducting a more detailed review of the election and its outcome and take appropriate action in the defense of the country's democracy. That election and its outcome is the focus of our conversation. We're being joined in the program by the Chairman Partners for Electoral Reform, also a board member of Yaga Africa, Mr. Ezenwa Nwago. He joins us from our Akure studio. Mr. Ezenwa, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Both of us are big stakeholders in this election, and the politicians can celebrate victory and losses, or mourn losses and celebrate victory. But for you and I, we're more interested in the process. So let's query the process from your estimation. We saw your projections that aligned with INEC's result announcement. We'll come to that. But an overview of what you witnessed on ground, because I know you're still in Akure, as to following the process and what you say are the highlights for you.
Well, thank you again for having me. I think basically there are 3 or 4 lenses with which you can assess the conduct of an election. You want to look at how the EMB, that's the electoral management body in this particular case, Independent National Electoral Commission, its officials conducted the elections. And you can then break it down into opening of polls, accreditation, voting, collation of, counting and collation, logistics, and all of those issues. So basically, from the observer lens, it was clear to us that there is a leap in the punctuality index for Ondo election. You're already aware, and these statistics are already public knowledge, that by 9:30 a.m., over 90% of the polling units across the state were up and running. And that is something that has been a challenge for the Independent National Electoral Commission in recent elections. So in terms of punctuality index, in terms of opening of the polls, I think that INEC creditably discharged that responsibility. It will not be devoid of, you can't celebrate that without looking at the disposition of the resident electoral commissioner in the state. Somebody who is if you like, an insider in INEC, who spent over 30 years. It's very clear that the resident electoral commissioner will be able to do things much more differently than people who are outsiders who just come into INEC to perform this responsibility. So in terms of logistics, and considering the very testy environment in which the election was conducted in terms of the riverine areas, the Ondo, the Laje areas, which are challenging always for Ondo election in terms of opening of polls. But we saw that that was not the case. If polls open on time, it is then natural that collation would also, because counting you won't have to go in much late into the night. And as you know, by close to 9 p.m., 90% of the results were already posted on the IREV, uploaded on the IREV. That is also something that has been a bit of challenge. If you just piggyback a bit to what happened in Edo, the recently concluded Edo election. So for INEC, I would say that we're comfortable with the way the officials behave. Our statistics simply shows paltry 7% unprofessional conduct by INEC officials, meaning that 93% of the officials would have behaved in a way that can inspire confidence to give INEC the kind of kudos that we have given them in our report. The security agencies, through the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, were able to organize the election in a way that it's peaceful. The police helping to ensure, and the army helping to ensure that the threat levels were minimized and people are able to come out and cast their votes without that siege mentality that you normally see. But as you know, the role of the security, apart from maintaining law and order, is also to ensure that electoral corruption and crimes are not perpetrated. So that is a flaw for the scoring the security agencies. They looked, in my view, and in our view, the other way when this whole Diboko Sebe thing, which is vote buying, was going on in many of the polling stations. But for the DSS that recorded one arrest in St. Stephen's Primary School. So putting 36,000 boots on the ground with NSDC, with the DSS, with the EFCC, we then have to be able to say that in terms of peace, they acquitted themselves well. But the other things that diminish the integrity of the process, which is this whole commercialization of election, is something that is unacceptable, and they should have done better with. For the political parties, I think they also conducted themselves peacefully. We didn't see that level of harassment or voter intimidation that you normally would see, except in some place in Idonre at some point. But having said that, for generally, I think it's a peaceful election. It's a bit above what we expected in terms of the kind of crisis that our election has been recently. So I think the different stakeholders can beat their chest and say they did well.
All right, we're going to look at the bright spots even further, but let's look at some of those blights as well. And you mentioned it, we've had conversation with your colleagues as well, and this issue of commercialization of our electoral process, politicians undermining the process. And for me, as a journalist, I do not expect politicians to do better because politicians are politicians. It's about interest, however they can get their things done. It's you and I to hold people to account. It's the security agencies to be as professional as possible. It's for INEC to be as professional as possible. I know you've made recommendation. What exactly can we do to check? Because it looks like when you get politicians this way, they find another way. As you get them here, they look for another way. This commercialization is becoming a thing, and it's going to grow in momentum as the elections approaches 2027. What, in your view, can be used to curtail this as much as possible?
Jeffrey, I don't agree with you that we should give them that comfort that they are politicians and so there is a particular.
No, I'm not saying we should give them comfort. It's more like we have given up on them to change.
The misbehavior or behavior of the politicians and their candidates impact the integrity of election in a very serious manner. And part of my challenge has been that oftentimes we are very reluctant and hesitant in calling them out. INEC are the soft target. So you come to the precinct of where elections are being conducted. You see that these officials are busy ensuring that people get ballots stamped, their fingerprints taken, their facials taken. And then this politician is somewhere ensuring that the secrecy of the ballot is compromised, ensuring that, through vendors, in the particular case of Ondo, what they did now was to recruit, food vendors and people who hawk refreshment around the place, and they became conduits for. So really, until we begin to, invite them to conversations about reform, I don't think that there is going to be a headway. Clearly, yes, the security agents may now be trying to normalize this by looking the other way and all of that, but they have responsibility to make arrests and deter people. And INEC will need to improve on the secrecy of the ballot. The way the party agents flog around, the cubicles is really not encouraging. And I think that because of the nature of elections, the officials themselves are so neck deep in ensuring that the process is going on well. The security agencies who have responsibility to maintain law and order at that police, if they also overreact, it will then seem that they are working for a particular end. So we are in some really difficult situation. My real thinking is that we are not talking to the politicians enough. If they commit to decent elections, we will have it. But once they are committed to subverting every attempt at ensuring that things work well, we have introduced don't get into the polling area with your phones so that you don't snap and show. But they still work I just told you the initiative where they are now recruiting vendors. People pretend they are going to buy, drinks and all the rest of them only for that exchange to take place. Somebody is leading them to the particular hawker who has the funds. So it is for me, the deleterious impact of this commercialization, which means that both the governed and the government itself, they will lose legitimacy. Even when you win, your legitimacy will be called to question because you know that even if in fact, the challenge with the political class in Nigeria is that elections that they are even going to win, legitimately, they still try to corrupt it. And so I think that we need to hold them to we need to bring them into the conversation and get INEC to, first of all, ensure that the secrecy of the ballot is maintained and that security agencies will not see what's going on as a bazaar. Even if in a bazaar you have fine pickpockets, it is the responsibility of the security agents to arrest those pickpockets. So my challenge is that our attitude to election generally is that it is a money-making period. And we are trying to normalize that. But crimes are being committed because these are crimes in the law, in the Electoral Act. Serving of food or, inducement with cash is clearly spelled out in the Electoral Act as a crime. And I think that those whose responsibility is to, ensure that law and order is maintained have to up their game. But now the challenge is that they will claim that, okay, they've been able to provide a conducive environment for elections to be conducted. We now need to think much deeper into what we need to do to curb this commercialization thing that is getting much more deeper and rooted, to the point that even the citizens themselves are singing and are happy that they collected money. And that is, for me, what is laughable and sad.
It's quite laughable and sad. That was why, not as if, I'm not saying we should not hold these guys or the bad element, because they are good politicians, they are bad politicians, so account. It's just that it's almost a tall order to begin to hope that it will change. By your admission, we caught them with ballot boxes. Now they've started recruiting vendors. If we catch them with vendors, trust me, these guys will find another way. So we have to keep chasing them, chasing them until we get this as right as we can. But we cannot take away the fact that politicians do their thing and some do it right, some do it wrongly. I know we focus on the process, but what do you think the APC did? Because I'm looking at you're watching the vote estimate that aligns with INEC projection. And you made a very clear statement, which I take very seriously. Say, sometimes even when they are going to win the election, they themselves undermine the process by their own conduct. So what did the APC do right and what did the PDP do wrong? This margin is the largest I've seen in a long while, 200,000. And nobody has ever crossed 300,000 from Aketi, God rest his soul, from 2016 to 2020. It's always within the 200,000 margin. But this is 366,000, and then the margin is 200,000. Who did what right? Who did what wrong, in your estimation?
No, it's not about. There are no saints in you know. You don't find virgins in the maternity ward. So what happens is that somebody has done much more than the other person. The incumbent has, of course, as you know, there could even also be some elite consensus if you follow the election a bit more carefully in terms of the attitude of the people. It's like, go do this term and you know, you finish the term of your principal concluded. That's my personal reading, and I may be wrong, but you know, I've observed elections, at least 3 or 4 cycles of elections in Ondo State, and I know what the atmosphere is. It's a bit different this time around. You could see that even the motor parks were quiet, were calm, you know, unlike what it used to be in the past. So I don't think it's about whether somebody did something right and the other person did something wrong. It is just a matter of right now. I think what the politicians are doing is to target the number that they need to win, mobilize the resources, and then get to the people. But you see, the challenge of vote buying is that it is the same money that you would give to an electoral officer to give you ballot papers, with which you will stuff and then send talks to come and cut it, is what is being taken to the people themselves directly. You know, so if you look at the numbers, you see that it appears that there is some targeting in terms of what number do we require to win, what amount of money can we deploy to get that happen. So that's why we need to focus a lot on this commercialization process. Okay. And it's not just in Ondo State. If you look back at even past elections, you will see that that is clearly what the innovation that the politicians are bringing into winning is to say, how much can we pay? How much can we pay at this time to win? And those who are able to get the resources do so. So it's not about who did what best. I think they campaigned. I think they talked to the people. But at the end of the day, even the people themselves are willing. Maybe you forget that even the Jibo Kosebe thing started in Ondo State, and then moved on to stomach infrastructure in Ekiti and then moved on. So the willingness, I saw willingness of even the people themselves to be giving money. Some are even celebrating that they collected money.
We just smile at these things, but they're not issues to laugh about. But it's a sad commentary. But the elections have come and gone. Commercialization is something we'll keep talking about. Almost. Thank you, Mr. Ezenwanwago, the chairman of Partners for Electoral Reform, board member, Yaga Africa. And we thank you guys at Yaga and every other CSO that is keeping eyes on this process to make sure that someday, this is not going to be a conversation. We're going to be having robust conversation around policy, not all of this. But the election have come and gone. We must thank you for your service. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jeffrey and Channels, for following us on this journey all through. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Welcome. Okay, just before we go, let's tell you that the Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal has sworn in the newly elected local government chairman. The swearing in held at the government house in Gusau was attended by top government officials, including traditional rulers and party leaders. Governor Lawal asked the chairman to prioritize the welfare of their people and ensure equity and fairness in the distribution of developmental projects.
Your emergence is a testament to the confidence the electorate have placed in you. I urge you to honor this trust by working diligently to improve the fortunes of your people in your respective local government areas. I'm particularly delighted with the leadership and the entire team of the Zamfara State Independent Electoral Commission, ZASEC, for organizing free, fair, as well as credible elections. Congratulations to all of you. As you are aware, the ultimate goal of the local government system in Nigeria is to bring government closer to the people at the grassroots. This is especially crucial at the local government council, as the third tier of government are vital in complementing the initiatives of the present administration to rescue the state from socio-economic issues and security challenges affecting all parts of the state.
That's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.